All right, so sorry about that. Hi, good morning. Still still getting up early for the streams. For me anyway, it's like 7 o'clock. Um I'm trying to adjust my sleep schedule so this is not so hard, because the local photography club, they like to go out 6:30, 7 in the morning, which I have to leave my house by like 5:30 to get to wherever they're meeting, because they usually meet about an hour away from where I live. And 3 4 nights, your schedule's adjusted, a little bit of jet lag, you're okay. But then one night you go to bed like at your regular time, and then suddenly it's like starting over with the sleep schedule. But I'll get there eventually. When I get up early, I get more done. Like, gosh, today I have a full schedule. I got the streams this morning, and then I got a photo job I got to go to, and uh then I have a conference meeting with another person, and then after that, if I have the energy, I might go on a photo walk because I'll be in a really nice area. Well, let me rephrase that: a quiet area that I can actually vlog a little bit instead of around my house. Hey, so let's see who's here. We got lots of people here already. That's awesome. Rod, good to see you. Lesipis and Beryl, John Softly. Thank you so much, John. I'm very I'm very flattered uh for your donation last night. That was really generous of you. And thanks to everyone who buys me coffee or uses the affiliate links or whatever, or just it's enough really just to be here with me when I'm on the streams. That's thanks enough, but I always appreciate when people do more. But I enjoy doing these streams, and just hanging out with people. Like I do this stream because there's a lot of people in the Australia, Indonesia time zone that I'd like to hang out with, and I know the other two streams I do are at different times that aren't quite as convenient. So I wanted to just hang out with you guys, and it's easier for me to get up early than it is for you guys to stay out till 2 in the morning, right? Rob shoots photos, good to see you. Yes, I am doing live edits now, so I'll do 3 a week. There's just so many images. And again, it helps me a lot too, because I get lots of great feedback on how to edit the photos. uh so it helps me to become a better editor as well. And like I said, it's a lot of fun just hanging out and looking at people's pictures, right? uh and we have Rod, good to see you. The mechanic, wow, I like that name. And Beryl, let's see. Yeah, I fixed the audio, good. Commodore, good to see you. David Crooks, oh hey, I was just talking about the your photography club. Some people asked me the the name of the club, so I just sent them links to the site. So maybe we'll get some new members in your club there. David runs the local photography club here and sets up the places to go to. So that's been great. I mean, I've only been on one photo walk with them, and I've been on one with David separately, but it gives me a chance to get out, or forces me to get out and shoot, because it's so easy to just, for me anyway, to sit at home and just watch the frickin' news all day. And you know what the news is like lately. Levante, good to see you. And let's see. Thank you, mechanic. All right, what do you make of the links? What do you make on the links? Depends on what the item is. Like photography stuff, 1 or 2% of the gross. Maybe 2%, I think. It averages out to something like that for everything. And they may end the affiliate program, and then you won't see affiliate links from anyone anymore. Probably a big crash in the YouTube channel too, right? Some people do better than others on the affiliate links. But you know, most of the stuff I sell on my affiliate links is just like, you know, grips or connectors. I don't know, little things. Rarely do people buy larger ticket items like cameras and lenses through my affiliate links. I don't know how their channels do, but you know, like if somebody buys $1,000 camera, that's 20 bucks, right? But that's rare. Usually it's like little tiny things like filters and stuff like that. So it's you know, it's every little bit helps though, right? Um but okay, let me try and sit up straight and fix my screen. A little bit crooked. My TARDIS is crooked. And my camera's crooked. Wow. I literally just sat down and now I'm crooked. Hold on. Dang it. Let me unlock that. I think I need to move over. The green screen is like in the shot. Oh, anyway. So amateur. uh But as always, I'm here to just hang out, answer any questions I can about photography, Olympus cameras, or Olympus workspace. Share with you my experiences, uh, what's been going on. Like I said, I have a photo job today for it's just a very small office, but it's going to take me longer to drive there and get back than it will to actually do the photo shoot, I think. Okay, good, John. I'm glad. Yeah, I figured it was a firmware update to get the focus stacking in because uh, for whatever reason there has to be a very high level of precision for focus bracketing and stacking, and I guess it's very specific to the lens. That's why, like, when you add third-party lenses, sometimes the focus stacking does not work. Bracketing usually works, which is why it confuses me why stacking is not the same. Maybe because it has to have an exact step or precision. I don't know. It's weird that bracketing can work, but then not stacking. Hey Roy, how are you? Serge, good to see you. Let's see. Love your opinion on the EM1 Mark III or EM1X going into animal photos and changing my Olympus gear. I think the EM1X technically is supposed to perform a little better, but then you kind of you compromise the size and weight, right? So I would, for me personally, I think I'd go EM1X, EM1 Mark III over the EM1X. Even though the EM1X supposedly has the artificial intelligence or AI for the focusing, they haven't added any animals to that yet. And who's to say that they ever will at this point? You can't go based on what's going to be promised to come in the future. You have to go on what you can get now. And right now, they don't have animal detect. And honestly, there's no substitute for tracking things. Like with your own eyes, right? Just pick a single point or 5 point and just track it. You just have to build up your skill set a little bit with tracking. And that'll always outperform any kind of artificial intelligence, in my opinion, at least at this point in our tech. So I would say EM1 Mark III because that's a camera you can take with you everywhere, whereas the EM1X, I feel like that's something you have to kind of plan to take out just because it's a much bigger camera. But I think in terms of autofocusing, the autofocusing on the EM1 Mark III is amazing. It's particularly the face detect is very much improved. I didn't talk about it in my video when I was comparing the Canon RP, which has excellent face detect, but the M1X performed equally as well as the Canon RP on the face detect part. I'm sorry, the EM1 Mark III. But the EM1 Mark II, which is the same as the EM5 Mark III, didn't perform half as well. You know, like if you get about 3-4 meters out, the M1 Mark II and the M1 Mark III lose focus on the face. Whereas the Canon RP and the M1 Mark III, you can go out about 10 meters. And, you know, it's all relative to your focal length, but your face could be like this much in the frame, and it would still acquire focus on your face. So, I'd say the EM1 Mark III definitely has excellent autofocus. Have you heard about the fake overheating problem from Canon? I saw a thumbnail on Tony Northrup's video about that's supposed to be fake. I don't I didn't watch it because I'm just not interested in that camera. So I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard anything. But the only video I saw was by Jordan, you know, on DP Review. Who is it? Nick and Jordan? I forget their names. Chris Nichols and Jordan, right? They do that DP Review. And Jordan was saying, yeah, you have to wait, like the camera will overheat after 5 minutes, and then you have to wait like 5-10 minutes for it to get cool again. So if he said it's overheating, then I believe it. But I don't know. And Beryl says, I think birds have been added or just about to be added. Yeah, that's I've heard that too. But I can't confirm that. Maybe someone that has an EM1X that can confirm that. That's not a camera I have. I know Randy has one, and I think John Follows has one. I'm pretty sure John has the 300mm f4. I don't think, I'm not sure about the M1X. I don't know if I saw John this morning. Oh yeah, John is here. John, do you have the do you have the M1X? Hey Quinn, how are you? Andy, good to see you. Andrew Bachelor, you're right about the weight. Yeah, I think that camera weighs a kilo, right? I mean, not that that's heavy for a camera, and 1 kilo is not that heavy in general. But yeah, carrying that thing around all day, or trying to handle it in any kind of sports action kind of way, pluses and minuses to that, right? Jock is asking, would Bird AF only make an appearance on Olympus flagship? If so, would make me look to upgrade from EM10 series? Yeah, it's only going to be on right now the EM1X. None of the other cameras have any kind of AI for autofocus other than face detect for humans. And I don't see that they can add that to any of the lower end cameras like the EM10. The M10s, yeah, I don't see them adding it to that because they're segmenting the cameras. And it wasn't, I think it might have been Levente was talking about how, you know, the more processing of like face detect, animal detect, all these different specialized processing things drain the battery, right? Because it's drawing more CPU power to keep up to make those calculations, because it's all done by computer, the face detect type things. I don't know if there's a way to measure that or not, but you know, as a regular consumer, if there's any way to measure that. But I can see the the logic behind that, right? That if you have more CPU processing, you're going to reduce the battery life. Christian, good to see you. I've always liked that name, Christian Johannes Eppel. Just rolls off the tongue, you know? And Quinn says, I was in Bali in January taking late afternoon photos of surfing, 32C, looking into the sun, and my EM1 Mark II went blank, stopped working a couple of times, over an hour. Would that be overheating? I don't know. I don't have a feel for 32 Celsius. Let me see what that looks like. It's only 89 degrees. No, I don't think it would. That shouldn't be overheating at 89, at 32 Celsius. I've been out in the sun in high heat and never had any problems. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, you know, yeah, it could be overheating because the battery gets a little hot, right? And the battery, if you're using Olympus original batteries, it has a little sensor in the battery to tell the camera when it's overheating, and it might cut the power to keep the battery cool. I don't think the camera itself would overheat, because I think you get actually an overheating warning. I think I saw it in the manual. You get an overheat warning on the display if that's the case. And it hasn't happened since. Yeah, now if you were using a generic battery in the camera at the time, then yeah, it's the battery, because generic batteries just can have very flaky draws, you know, on the current into the camera, and then the camera will malfunction because the battery's not able to keep up with the demand for whatever you're doing. It's never happened to me on my Olympus cameras, but on my Nikon, when I use generic batteries, yeah, I would get shutter errors all the time. Yeah, so John has the M1X. Is there any kind of bird firmware update that you know of? Yeah, and he's saying the same thing. It's you need a special he has a special backpack combination, because it's not just one you pick up and go, right? Like the EM1 Mark III, you would just pick up and go. And then Levente says it depends if it's wet or dry heat. Also, could you tell if it was graceful shutdown or just outright power cut? Yeah, if it's just an outright power cut, it's definitely probably like a generic battery kind of thing. If that's the case, if you're using Olympus original batteries, um, you know, then it would be a different reason. But I would diagnose it as a generic battery if it's like an outright cutoff. And then humidity may play a part. Really, with cameras? Maybe. Again, I don't shoot in real extreme conditions very often, if at all. I mean, if it's cloudy out, I don't like to go out. Hmm. I think that was, yeah, that was for Quinn. So Quinn, I don't know, if you can give us a little information if you were using Olympus original batteries, if it was humid out. I mean, that's a lot of, I think Bali would be humid. Oh, Levente says it plays a part in heat transfer. Wet air transfers more than, uh, really, than dry air. Interesting. So the humidity in the air is kind of a catalyst, not catalyst is not the right word, but a conductor. Makes the air more conductive for heat. That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, right? But oh my God, look who's here. Elaine, how are you? My goodness, it's been a long time. I mean, you were in my streams like every week up until about 2 months ago, and then I only saw you once since then. It's good to have you back. You should start submitting your images again too to the other stream that comes after this. And Quinn says Bally was super humid, just power cut screen went black. Original battery. I undid lens and remounted times it started working again. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, the cameras never stop working when once I have the lens mounted, but sometimes when I mount the lens, I have to turn the camera off and back on to get it, excuse me, to get it to power up. So that's just a bad connection or something. So maybe just clean your contacts on your lenses and on the camera. And do a little research on how to do that. Don't ask me. I mean, I've seen things. The way I do it is I use a Q-tip with a little rubbing alcohol, but I don't know if that's an approved method or not. But that's what I do. I've heard some people use like a white eraser to clean the contacts. You know, there's all kinds of things. So, or maybe even just a dry Q-tip. You know, just use the friction of the Q-tip itself, the cotton, to clean the lens contacts. I know. I made a few friends, and we are on the phone every day, calling in about 4 minutes. You guys should just start a live stream and have your conversations online. You'd probably get 1 billion views. Make a few bucks while you're at it. Has anyone tried the MC20 teleconverter? Looking to pick one up for my 40 to 150. I've only heard good things about it. I mean, I usually recommend people get the 1.4, just so you can keep a faster aperture. But if you really need the reach, the 2.0 will do it. But you're going to be shooting with a minimum f5.6, right? Or maximum f5.6 aperture. So you're going to need to be in pretty good light to use the MC20. Whereas the MC 1.4, you'll be at f4 at maximum aperture, which is, you know, it makes a difference. And also when you start cutting light at like f5.6, it affects the autofocusing as well. I don't know how much, but just enough. Hold on. But it might make a difference in whatever you're shooting. I need to slow my computer down a bit. Okay. Check the contacts on the lens aren't bent outwards more than they should. Okay. It would be crazy. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why you would get 1 billion views. you know, start talking crazy online, man. People just flock to that crap. They like that drama. You know, that's why, you know, like I never have more than 50, 100 people on my streams because I'm not crazy. But if I was crazy, oh my God. Any idea why Workspace will only update my camera and not my lens firmware? No, I have no idea why. Unless your lenses don't need updates. Yeah, I can't think of any reason. It should come up the same as the camera when it shows you the firmwares. I mean, you can always compare the firmware version of the lens, because it should be at least showing you the firmware version of the lens, and compare that to the Olympus website and see if there actually is an update for it. Oh, here John is saying the bird firmware is on its way for EM1X according to Peter Forsgaard, I think. He tried it on trains, but if anything gets in the way of panning, it freezes. for a few seconds, so I don't use it anymore. Ah. Yeah, that's what I mean about artificial intelligence. See, John is giving me some evidence of that. There's nothing replaces the human eye, right? For tracking. You're too kind. You're too kind, Elaine. Nice guys finish last, though. That's all I can say. And Levente says the 4150 I have is on 1.0 and it's supposed to be on 1.3. Oh, that's odd. You know, the only thing I can tell you is if you have a different computer, install Workspace on that one and try it, because I have one laptop, actually the one I just replaced, because I don't know, I got like 5 or 6 laptops now. But on the laptop I just replaced, I could not update the firmware through Workspace. You know, it would show me the current versions, but then when it went to update, it would freeze. It scared me to death. I thought I bricked my camera. Thank God that didn't happen. But I couldn't update my camera with it, so I would try a different computer. Maybe that'll do it. You know how Workspace is. It's kind of glitchy, right? I mean, at least when I'm editing photos. So maybe the firmware update process has a glitch or some conflict with something I have on that other computer. Not on my books. I married a nice guy. Okay. Do I have any experience with, Jason is asking, do I have any experience with Sigma lens like the 56? I do have some experience with Sigma lenses when I shot Nikon. I had 3 really good Sigma lenses, the 24 to 105 f4, the 50mm 1.4 art lens, and they were all art lenses, whatever they want to call it. And I had the 18 to 35 f1.8. Every single one of them had problems with focusing because they were all autofocus lenses. Meaning the Nikon would tell me that it acquired focus. I'd get that focus beep. But then when I went back home to look at them, they were blurry. They were just off a little bit. And it was very random. Sometimes it would lock focus, sometimes it wouldn't. So I lost a lot of confidence in the autofocus. And this is from like 2014, 2015 time frame, and a little bit in the early 2016 before I switched to Olympus. I don't know if it's been an issue with Olympus, you know, the Micro Four Thirds systems, though I've heard people say the same thing, that they had problems with the autofocus. That said, the 56mm is really nice, right? It's priced about right. It's very fast, and the bokeh is so smooth. And I know the Sigma lenses are very sharp. Oh my God, the lenses from Sigma are so sharp. They cut your eyes, you know. But the when it got focus, and I would say it got focus like 90% of the time. But then there was those times when it should have got focus and it didn't. So that's the only experience I have. The other issue I had, besides them being big and heavy and ridiculous, at least on the Nikon system, was a little bit of a quality issue. When on my 50mm f1.4, it would focus, but then I'd hear this little squeak. Not every time, again, it was kind of random, but it would squeak a little when it was focusing. And so after I switched to Olympus, I sold all of those lenses. Actually, I didn't even wait for that. I think I sold all my Olympus, my Sigma glass, for less than half what I paid for them, because I just traded them in at the store. And because they were big and heavy. That was the main reason. Then you add on the other 2 issues I had with them. And I couldn't be happier that I got rid of them. I loved them when I got them. They took beautiful pictures, but the size and weight of those things was ridiculous. Oh, John Groki, he would know, right? John says about cleaning contacts. Says, please don't use erasers, Q-tips, dry or wet, alcohol, or even contact cleaner. Use a dry lens cleaner and gently wipe away. Okay. So the same cleaner that you use for the glass on the lens, you're saying you can use on the contacts? That makes sense. At least that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting from the way you type that out. And how you doing, John, by the way? Good to see you here. And Sephron says, for photography, the Sigma 17 f1.4 is amazing. Isn't it the six? I thought it was a 16 f1.4. I didn't know they had a 17. And then Rob shoots photo. It's amazing how one computer works and one won't. I upgraded 2 computers with exact hardware and exact same upgrade, and I had to do workaround to get one of them to work. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if it's Windows. It's probably just Windows because it has to deal with. But in your case, you're saying you had the exact same upgrade, exact same hardware. But Windows has to deal with so many different configurations. You know, sometimes it just is a little bit off. Olympus currently has 15% off lenses online and store at the UK if anyone's interested. Oh, wow, that's a good deal. Hey, Von Swarchild, good to see you. And Music Sound Gear, always good to see you. Good morning. The late show for me, or early show for me. And John says, no, a dry rag, dry cloth. Okay. Like I said, you have to do your due diligence on that. I rarely clean the contacts, but when I did, that's what I did. Leon says, hey, Leon, good to see you. Leon says, Rob, 5 months ago, I updated my M1 Mark II firmware with the Olympus updater program. I used up no issues. But afterwards, noticed the updater program was actually dropped by Olympus in 2017. Yeah, it's been integrated into Workspace. I think it's still its own separate thing, but Workspace is just a bridge to it, and it's the only way to get to it now. But if you still have it separately, if I remember correctly, when I tried to use it, it told me there's an upgrade to the upgrade program, so I updated it, and then I used Workspace. Sephron says, yeah, the 16, always say 17. Yeah, what's his name? Gerald Undone likes the 16 millimeter. I think he uses it for his videos that he does. Probably don't want to use microfiber, but maybe. And Levente's saying alcohol is fine to clean electronics. Gold contacts, don't worry about it. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just I'm very ignorant when it comes to a lot of electronics. But John is I think Levente, you have an you're in school for electrical engineering, right? And I know John has been an electrical engineer, published author, etc. In electronics for a long time. And 99% of electronics, you know, the principles are the same. Just like calculus, right? That's hundreds of years old from Isaac Newton or whoever. I think Isaac Newton invented calculus. And they still teach it today. Oh, IT engineering, but there is overlap. Okay. I remember you're telling me you're in school. Good morning, you'd say. Good to see you. John, you'd say. Sorry. And let's see. Jock is saying isopropyl. I don't know. You know, like I said, take everything you hear online with a grain of salt and find a source that you trust and do the due diligence. Generally speaking, probably best if you can look for something in the user manual. If it's not there, search the forums on the Olympus website, because I think Olympus has its own forum or Q&A community, and search that and look for answers from the Olympus reps. And then even then you have to be careful, right? Because sometimes the reps give wrong information that are on the forums trying to help you. And that's the problem, right? You ever call like the official source and then you get the wrong information from even the official source? But you have to do your due diligence, basically. Yeah, Terry, that's what I do because it just made sense to me. But John Yorkie is saying that you don't want to use Q-tips or rubbing alcohol. He's saying just microfiber. And he says the contacts are typically silver coated. Hmm. And Von Sor says, I always check my sensor only for dust. Is it also possible that more or less invisible layers deposited, which influence the image quality? Yeah, there's things that can kind of particulate onto the sensor that won't come off. It sticks, like if you ever look at the windshield of your car, you have to clean it sometimes on the inside because of the plastics in your car with heat particulate onto the glass inside the uh, windshield, and you get this film that builds up not only from that, but a lot from the contaminants in the air and things like that. But sensor cleaning I leave up to the professionals at this point. I don't do it myself anymore. I used to do it on my Nikon. I'd buy the little those flat Q-tips things that you buy, sensor cleaners with the liquid drops. But yeah, whenever there's a sensor cleaning, well, I go to the local camera store basically and let them do it. Up till now, they used to have the free sensor cleaning, um, sessions, but that was through Olympus, and because of the COVID, they stopped doing those. And now that they're being, rebranded or sold to JIP, I don't know if they're going to continue that at all. So I might have to start paying for them. And let's see. Similar to a disc, you only notice how dirty it is when you take a rag or wipe it. Yeah. And email Olympus Repair Center. They're good about returning questions when I've had questions about my weather sealed lenses. Yes. Oh, that's good to know. I've never emailed them. I've dealt with the repair center once and they were excellent. But that was because I needed a warranty thing done. I should send in my EM5 and get that button fixed. But I honestly, I don't miss it. My EM5, if you guys been following me a long time, when I bought this camera, like the very first photo walk I took it on, I dropped it. I busted the button right off. It fell right on the button. Now my EM10 Mark II, it's on the fritz. But that camera I might try and clean it myself. I'm not spending more than the camera's worth just to clean it. If it was working right, maybe, but it's not working right anymore. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, David, about cleaning sensors anymore. Like I said, I bought those little swab kits when I shot my Nikon, but the sensor didn't move inside the camera. You know, it was fixed, so it you could apply just a little bit of pressure, and I don't know. I know I cleaned my Nikon sensor a few times and never noticed any problems, like I didn't break it, but sensor sensor cleaning at this point I just leave to professionals now when I can. Yeah, how often you clean a sensor is your mileage is going to vary. Some people probably need to clean it after every shoot. Oh, Joe Edelman. Yeah, Joe is a good source. Like I said, I think the best source is if you call the repair center and email them. I would have a very high level of confidence in that answer and then cross-reference that with maybe Joe Edelman and see if they say the same thing. But Joe's not a repair guy, you know? But he may know a lot about cleaning sensors. You know how it is, right? You see a person and they have like this unbelievable amount of knowledge of something you wouldn't think they would, right? Like, if somebody asked me about something I might be interested in outside of photography, it'd be easy to guess, right? Cars, computers, Star Trek. But some people, you would have no idea. It's like, yeah, I like Greek mythology, or weird things like that, right? Yeah, the sensor has its own, and it's true for most cameras nowadays. They self clean, but they just get rid of dust that's not stuck to the sensor. Um, it's not going to account for that very fine film that can get onto the sensor, like those things that come out of the atmosphere. Like when it's a little bit humid, right? The sensor can develop a very fine film of moisture on it, and then whatever's in the atmosphere or the air will stick to that water and dissolve to some extent and then stick to the sensor. Now we're talking about very, very, micro type things, but over time, that's what happens, right? So if you live in a humid environment, you probably have to clean your sensor more often than others that might live in a completely dry environment. And according to Levente, humid weather also is a better conductor of heat. So your camera is more likely to overheat as well. I mean, it all makes sense, right? It's not, uh, it all makes sense when you think about it, right? Hot weather, humid weather is going to overheat your camera. And Rob says, if it is unusual that you lose contact with your lens communication, I wouldn't worry about it. I've gotten in the habit of turning the camera off before changing it out. Yeah, but Peter Forsgaard was saying that it's recommended to leave the camera on when you change lenses because it automatically cleans the sensor every time you mount and dismount lenses. So I don't know. And Peter, Peter's a reliable source as well. If I don't know something, I'll tell you, because that's the thing about these live streams and videos. When you go online, you can't like BS your way through it, right? Because so many of you out there know everything. Cumulatively, you guys know everything, and you'll get called out like this if you're lying or don't know what you're doing online, right? Either in the comments section or here in the live stream in the chat. And once your reputation is gone, there's no point to stay online unless you have some other attribute like you're entertaining or something. Then it's okay, right? Because like there's some channels I watch, like Camera Conspiracies, right? uh He's literally like me, just a guy with a camera, but has access to several more cameras, and he just tries them out, right? Uh, and even when he's wrong about something, it's okay because he's just an entertainment channel, and he's there for entertainment purposes. But someone like me, if I make a video and I start talking about cleaning cameras, I will get called out immediately. you know, like if I tried to come out and say I'm some authority on cleaning, you know, I'll be like, yeah, what you do is take the lens off, you get these Q-tips, you put a little drop of alcohol on it, and then you start rubbing the contacts like this. Yeah, that video will get hammered, right? um, so that's why I'm always very careful not to use definitive words like always and never, and you know, and I get a little bit more what's the word I'm looking what's the word I'm looking for? But yeah, I try to say maybe, usually, sometimes, right? uh Generally, and then that kind of keeps you out of trouble a little bit, right? When you generalize, and or I can say in my experience this has been the case. So there's very few things that are definitive in life, other than math, right? At least at a consumer level, math is very definitive. That's why, like, when I did my video on aperture, you know, I was very careful. I took one analogy a little bit too far when I said f8 to f9 is like one stop, and then I pause, and then I say, well, it's not. F8 to f9 is not one stop. But that's the only part of that video I should have stopped at f8 and not said f9. And Rob says, but when you hold down the lens release, it does turn off the electrical contacts, but you may not get it clicked in right if you hold a button. Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky, right? Um, you have to hear that little click when you twist the lens on there. Definitely. Good morning, Tourpan. Good to see you. Nature says, I will stick to turning the camera off when changing lenses, although some forget sometimes when in a rush. Yeah, I don't think it hurts either way, leaving it on or off. Math is why you don't use alcohol. I believe you. I think it was a recent episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where that one girl, I forget her name, was saying that she has faith in math. You know, they said she has faith, you know, and then, or they asked her, what do you have faith in? I have faith in math. Because they were trying to calculate some time stream or time slip or whatever they were going through at the time. I'm so sad that series is over. That was one of my favorite series. I really like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'll have to it's on Netflix now, but I'm thinking about buying the box set. I don't know why. If it's on Netflix, but I just hate paying that monthly fee. They have so many good shows. Anyhow, it's irritating when they have a show I like and then they cancel it. Like, I used to really like Frasier, and I'd watch that going to sleep. You know, it's like kind of my lullaby to go to sleep. I would just have some show on that I like, and go to sleep to that. And then what's nice, after 3 or 4 episodes, Netflix stops playing, and then you have complete silence during your sleep. But anyhow, yeah, we should be talking about photography, right? Oh, here, Truepants has a question. I have the one EM1 Mark II, was wondering my next lens, 7 Artist and 7.5 or Panasonic 25. Any suggestions? I'd say I'd have to ask you what lenses you have now. I assume you have the 14 to 42 kit lens. So I'd probably go with the 7 Artist and 7.5. Try to get a focal length that you don't already have. I mean, if you're just having fun with the camera, uh, try to get a focal length that you don't have already covered by zoom lens. Unless you really need to be shooting in low light, then you might want to start looking at primes for faster apertures. You know, like if you don't have the 40 to 150 kit lens, I'd say definitely get that one over those two lenses that you mentioned there, because you have to think of ways that will expand your photography. And expanding your photography, there's a lot of different ways, but when it comes to lenses, you need to expand your photography by getting a focal length that you don't have already covered with a zoom lens. If you need a lens for something very specific, then you'll know it and you'll buy it. But if you're asking kind of a range of lenses or recommendations in general, I always recommend get a focal length that you don't already have covered with a kit lens, and have fun with that. So you have a kit lens and a zoom lens. Yeah, so I would go with the Artisan's 7.5 millimeter and just have fun with that. Because the 25 millimeter, yeah, it's a little bit faster at f1.8, so it'll allow you to shoot in low light better. Maybe give you a little more depth of field, but it's a focal length you already have covered in the kit lens. And yeah, once you get past a few low light photos, what do you do with it then? You don't really need it, right? So, but a 7.5 millimeter, you can always use, because the kit lens doesn't cover that. So when you need 7.5, you know, you'll use it 100% of the time because it's that focal length. And Nature says, I have only once very, very carefully wiped a sensor with the end of a cleaning pen when accidentally touched the sensor lenses. A cleaning pen. Yeah, I've never used those. And TruePen says, I have the 40 to 150. What are your thoughts on a 7 Artisans? I don't own any of those lenses, but everybody tells me they're excellent. Because a lot of people here in the chat section, they own that lens and they really like it. I've never heard anyone say anything bad. I think there was a video by, and I really like, God, let me look. Maybe watch this video as well, because I think he was a little bit critical of it. Darren Miles. Let's see. Oh no, he was talking about the 12 millimeter Laowa. I mean, I didn't watch the video, but he says D for disappointing. But yeah, just I wouldn't hesitate recommending it based on everything I've heard about it from a lot of the follower or viewers here. Yeah, John, you should definitely. John is saying you should make a video in my electronics lab and teach electronics. Definitely, because you're an instructor at it. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? I love watching actually some of the when people restore old electronics, like they'll buy a receiver, like a stereo receiver from the 1970s, and bring it back to life. You know, I used to watch those time to time. I haven't watched one in a while, but it was always interesting to see how things were put together in the old days with tubes and things like that. Well, in the 70s, they didn't have a lot of tubes, uh, you know, they're always careful of the capacitors, right? They're like, yeah, like he bought this giant receiver on eBay, and then he would let it sit there for like a month without any power to it, because he wanted to make sure the capacitors inside were completely drained out um, before working on it. Because yeah, those things will kill you, right? And Music is asking, what is the difference between the Sigma Art lens that you had and the contemporary lens? Art lenses are more expensive. Yeah, in theory, they're supposed to use better. You know, it's like they're best of the best. They're A grade lenses, whereas the contemporaries are their B grade. That's all. So in theory, it's supposed to be, you know, better build quality, uh, and better lens optics and things like that. the contemporary lenses are more of their budget lenses, so usually they don't have as fast an aperture. The art lenses always have the fastest aperture. Contemporaries, I found, usually are a little bit slower aperture. And if they have fast apertures, then the build quality is a little bit less. But I think it's a good balance between price and performance with the Sigma lenses, at least on paper. I just don't buy Sigma lenses anymore. I'm tempted by the 56mm though. Like 400 and some dollars. That's a fast lens, right? 56 1.4, and it's not too big and bulky. I think it's only like 400 grams. The Artisans is good, but don't forget it's a fisheye. Yeah, it is a fisheye, right? The 7.5. That's right. But you can correct for that a little bit if you have Lightroom. Yeah, and Rob is saying that the Panasonic 25 is nice, but if you want CAF and video, use the Olympus. And I always tell people that always try to buy the same brand lens with the same brand camera, because there's other features like maybe pro capture or focus stacking. There's things that don't work with off-brand lenses when you put them onto your camera. Like on Panasonic, if you put Olympus lenses on them, the DFD, the depth from defocus calculations don't work. And then I'm almost positive like the focus stacking is disabled when you use Panasonic lenses on Olympus. And I know there's other things, I just can't think of them now. Focus bracketing still works, but the stacking is disabled. Just like I forget who it was earlier was saying they had to do a firmware update just to get the Olympus lens to work with focus stacking. And Nature says, yes, get that range. I have the 12 to 35 Panasonic Lumix, the 40 to 150 Pro Olympus, and wanting the 150 to 400 Olympus Pro lens to give me a full zoom range. Maybe need a 7 to 14. Wow. Yeah, you're not wide enough. Instead of a 7 to 14, I would maybe get the 8mm fisheye. Because it's a 1 1/3 stop faster, and it'll give you that wide angle. Because you're already pretty close at 12 with the 12 to 35mm on your Panasonic lens. I would say maybe the 8mm fisheye might be a better choice because it's faster. And again, fisheye correction is relatively easy to do. And Tirapan says he's not doing video. Yeah, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you want a 25mm, the Panasonic is a decent option. But I'd still go for the Olympus version, because people were saying at f4 it was back focusing on them. I never experienced that because I have the 25 Panasonic, but because of the video side of it, I bought an Olympus Panasonic, or Olympus 25mm. And Nature's confirming, yeah, focus stacking is disabled when using Panasonic lenses. Oh, Emily has a review, right, from Micro Four Nerds for the 7 Artisans. Yeah, check hers out. She has a really fun channel. I really like her channel. And Rob says, also, if you want a fast prime, check your metadata on what focal length you shoot with most on your kit and get that. I got the 25, but now realize 17 was best for me. Now I barely use the 25. Yeah, I'm the same way. I barely use the 25. I used to use the 25 a lot when I did my tutorials because I was set up in my basement before, and the camera was at a certain distance. And actually, a lot of my tutorials, I used to use my EM10 Mark II with the 25mm lens. Now I just use the 12 to 40 Pro, and then I adjust it to whatever focal length I need. And that's why I bought the 12 to 40 Pro, is mainly for video work. Because I never know where I can put the camera down, so I have to adjust the focal length based on the availability of space. Oh, okay, you already have the 8mm, okay. Yeah, then I would skip the 7 to 14. I don't see a point of getting that if you have all those other lenses. And focus stacking only on pro lenses and macros. Yes. Yeah, not all Olympus lenses work with focus stacking. That's true. So you have to see what's compatible. But so far, yeah, only the pro lenses and the macro lenses like the 60mm macro and the 30mm macro. So before you get into focus stacking in camera, yeah, you have to make sure you have the right combination. But the only thing I can tell you is that, yeah, with Panasonic, it definitely doesn't work. You have to use Olympus. And Commodore says, we have used both Pana and Olympus 1.8s, and our results, the Olympus are sharper on both Olympus and Pani bodies. Oh, that's interesting. But you figure, you know, the Panasonic version, like $100, $150, right? All day long, depending where you shop. And the Olympus ones are always 200, 250 all the time. You never find the Olympus Panasonic or Olympus 25mm for less than $200, you know, brand new. That's extremely rare. I don't think I've ever seen it. So there must be must be one of those, you know, you get what you pay for kind of things. But for my dying eyes, I can't tell the difference between the two in terms of image quality. My work is not that critical. Like I said, I everything I deliver to my clients is 2 megapixels in the end once everything's cropped out. So I'm not too critical about sharpness. I mean, if all the Olympus lenses sucked, yeah, then I would have a problem. But generally speaking, they're all very good, good enough that I don't have to worry about it when I buy an Olympus lenses. Very rare exceptions. You know, the 15mm body cap lens, which is not really a lens, is a little rough. You know, the 14 to 42 kit lens is awesome, but the 12 to 32 kit lens from Panasonic is better. And, you know, little things like that, very subtleties, but you really have to pixel peep to tell the difference. Yeah, someday save money for a pro lens. I know. So expensive, right? But man, when I was looking at the Canon lenses, because I did that Canon review, yeah, it was it was yeah, I mean, there's a reason those lenses are so expensive. But sometimes you don't want an expensive lens, right? You just want a good lens. That's not crazy expensive. And Olympus has a lot of those. They have a lot of good lenses that aren't crazy expensive, like the 40 to 150 kit lens. Awesome. And it's $99. Hi, Wu Dang is here. How are you? Ultra wide angle is something where full frame cameras shine. Much more faster options. Yes, that is true. The Olympus 7mm is close. I owned it, but can't compare in shallow depth of field. Right. Generally, don't try to get depth of field with a wide angle, but yeah, the physics of that is clear. Pretty straightforward. You'll get better, shallower depth of field with full frame. And Nature says the focus stacking with the 60 macro gives excellent results with more depth of field. Think resulting photo is JPEG, but you also get the raw photos. Yes, so when you do focus stacking in camera, if it's an option for your camera, the stacked images come out JPEG, the final image, but it saves all of the steps when it's doing the focus bracketing side of it as RAWs, if you choose, you know, RAW plus JPEG. And then you can stack them yourself in software if you want, not in Workspace, but in like Photoshop or something. Oh, the Sony 20 f1.8. Yeah. Yeah, I have a Nikon 20mm f1.8 that I didn't use that lens very much before I switched to Olympus, but that's a great lens. I should take my Nikon out just for a day and shoot with it. I haven't shot with that thing in so long. And Tripp says, so this is a new question. The EM10 kit lens works with other cameras like EM1. Yeah, it works with any Micro Four Thirds camera. So it could be a Panasonic, it could be because the lenses are based on the lens mount itself. So if it's a micro four thirds camera, you'll be able to use it on any brand camera that uses a micro four thirds mount. Like a lot of the Blackmagic cinema cameras use micro four thirds mounts. There's a Sharp like 40 megapixel camera or 8K camera, I forget what it's called. But yeah, anybody that uses the micro four thirds mount, you'll be able to use your kit lens with. And Peter Breaks, how are you? Hi from Thailand. Here's an interesting article saying in Japan, Olympus has 4 in the top. Yeah, I saw that. 4 in the top of the 10 best-selling mirrorless cameras. Yeah, I saw that. Somebody emailed it to me. Yeah, Japan, yeah, but I don't know how big the Japan market is relative to the US or the world in general. Apparently it wasn't enough to keep Olympus from, to be profitable, unfortunately. The camera division specifically. And David says, I was thinking about setting up film black and white photo walk. Should I do DC Union Station or go to Alexandria? I'm not going into DC. Yeah, I would definitely Alexandria. Alexandria has some nice places, right? Old Town is generally really nice, and well, you probably know better than me, but I go to Alexandria a lot. I think you just have to watch your step when crossing the crosswalks and stuff, right? And power power of wound set so it doesn't show the image how you took it in the art function. It should. If you're talking about you're using an art filter and you take a picture, it should show you the art filtered picture. If that's not what you're asking, maybe reword the question a little bit. I'll try and answer that for you. And John Gorky says, I would get a pro lens only if I were a pro photographer. Yeah. Yeah, pro lenses, generally I don't, like I said, I have 2 now, but the one I did use professionally. The other one I bought for fun because it's an 8mm fisheye, but it happens to be a pro lens. Yeah, Torpedo Factory, that would be cool. And Jock is asking, have you tried the Olympus 14-42 Pancake? Looks like the ideal travel lens. I did. I had it for a long time until it broke. I would hesitate to recommend that lens anymore because I keep hearing it over and over again that the 14-42 has a little ribbon cable in it that the action of that thing extending and going back in the camera all the time, the ribbon cable breaks loose or is brittle for some reason and the contacts break and the lens stops working. So I bought the 14-42 regular zoom lens, even though I really like the pancakeness of the power zoom. When I replaced it, I just bought the regular. And then I've replaced the regular 14-42 with the pancake 12-32 from Panasonic, because that lens is wider and it's even sharper than the kit lens from Olympus. Oh, compared to JPEG and RAW. Yeah, the RAW images, if you're using an art filter, it's always going to shoot the JPEG, but you can have it also save the RAW image. So if you shoot RAW plus JPEG, it'll save 2 picture files. The JPEG will always be the art filter image. The RAW file, you'll only see the art filter image if you use Olympus Workspace. If you're using, say, for example, Lightroom or some third-party software, it's not going to show you the art filter applied to the raw image, because usually third-party software doesn't recognize those extra things that individual manufacturers do with their in their processing. So yeah, in Lightroom and stuff, the raw image will be without the art filter applied. It'll literally, because the Lightroom generates its own raw image in the software. Yeah, Captain Morgan says the same thing. 12 to 32 Lumix pancake is so good. It is so good. I love that lens. I'm gonna use it today on my pro job. Oh, what time? Yeah, I'm gonna use it today on my pro photography job today. Just for some outside shots. I don't really need it. It's not wide enough for the indoor shots, but for outdoors, it's great. Oh my God, pancakes. You know, I didn't even think about it, but now I'm hungry. And you can add filter effects after camera raw. Yes. Yeah, in Workspace, you can do it after the fact. If you didn't use an art filter, when you took the picture, you can always apply the art filter using Olympus Workspace to the raw image. And Quinn says, my EM1 Mark II came with the 12 to 200. It worked while traveling, not very fast though. You mean by not fast, do you mean because it's an f4, or do you mean because the focusing was slow? I would be surprised if you're talking about the focusing. But I don't own that lens because... Oh, the 12, I'm thinking the 12 to 100 is an f4, but the 12 to 200, yeah, that's not fast. Yeah, it's a very slow lens aperture-wise, but I guess the question still holds, right? Is it the focusing that's slow? Or is it just the aperture? Because this focusing will be slower as a result of the smaller aperture, but if it's slower than you would expect, that, you know, it's a fine line, right? Yeah, Jock, look at the Panasonic 12 to 32. I bought mine. It came with my GX85, and I bought it used for like 200 bucks. So I got a camera and that lens for 200 bucks, but you can find that lens usually for about 120, $125. Last time I looked for it, which was last year. But prices of things have been going up, which I can't figure out. So it may have gone up on that as well. And Valdez says the 12 to 32 pairs well with the Lumix 35 to 100, which is even sharper and super small. The 35 to 100 is sharper than the 12 to 32? That would be amazing, really, because I know the 12 to 32 is very sharp. I mean, it's in just pure sharpness, it's right up there with my 12 to 40 Pro. You know, I'm not talking about looking at everything corner to corner, chromatic aberration. I mean, I just pixel peeped a few images with some high-res shot pictures. And based on that, in the center, definitely very sharp. Okay, Quinn is saying, yes, because of the aperture is 3.5 to f6 on the 12 to 200 Pro, or 12 to 200 lens. But okay, I have to wrap it up, guys. I have another live stream editing, live photo editing stream in about 10 minutes. So thanks everybody for coming in today. It was great chatting with you all, as always. And if you want to continue into the live stream editing session, I'll be there in about 10 minutes. So you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll be back on Thursday about 6 hours later than this time slot.